Hi, I'm Bob Schieffer, and this is Face to Face, our midweek web edition from the people that face the nation. And our guest today, the Mayor of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa. Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be here.
I want to ask you first, what did you think yesterday when you heard that Mitt Romney was in the 15% tax bracket?
Well, I wasn't surprised. I think that's probably why he hasn't wanted to do what virtually every presidential candidate that I can remember has done, and that is share their tax returns with the American people.
You know, a lot of the debate this year in the Republican primaries and caucuses has been about immigration. How is that sitting with Hispanic voters?
Well, one of the things that I've noticed in these debates is that they seem to be from another, the conversation seems to be from another planet. Everybody I talk to is talking about jobs and job creation. Everybody that I talk to, mayors across the country, they're talking about how we can partner together to put people back to work. And yet what you hear a lot from these candidates are the culture wars, the strident and polarized debate around issues that are important, but certainly not as important as job creation.
Well, that's why you're here in Washington. The Conference of Mayors is meeting here. What do you think would be the best thing, or is there any one thing that the government could do to kind of jumpstart this economy and get people back to work?
Well, they could pass the president's job plan. What we saw last summer was a House leadership that was ready to take us to the brink of default. What we saw was a super committee that didn't live up to its name, failed to find a middle ground. You know, the vast majority of mayors, and certainly I believe the vast majority of the American people, are looking for solutions. They're tired of orthodoxy and ideology. I think the Congress has an 11% rating because they just haven't done their job. If you were to give a grade for last year's session, I think you'd have to say F for failure. So they need to pass a jobs agenda, pass the payroll tax cut, pass a surface transportation bill. They need to put people back to work. Yes, we need to cut our deficit, but we need to do it in a smart way. We need to close tax loopholes and have the revenues we need to make the investments in our infrastructure, in our schools. We've got to put people back to work, and that's got to be our number one job.
Let me ask you this. What could the Congress do to work together? I mean, back when you've been in California politics a long time, what did you do to get people to work together?
It's interesting that you asked that question, because I was asked the question just a couple of minutes ago. When I was Speaker of the Assembly in California in 1998, the first thing I did was Democrats used to sit on one side of the aisle, Republicans on the other. I sat them together. I gave Republicans and the Republican leader for the first time the ability to name all their own vice chairs. The Speaker used to name the chairs and the vice chairs of both parties. I gave the Republican leader that opportunity. I gave them what they called more proportionality of resources. The majority party usually wants all the resources for their members, and I shared those resources. And what we said was, let's have a civil debate. When I left the speakership, I said that, you know, that I learned a lot in the 6 years I was in the legislature. I learned that there were Democrats who I vote with every day that I wouldn't invite to my home for dinner, and that there were Republicans who I never vote with who I would. People are people, and I think the vast majority of the American people are looking for people who can work together to come up with the solutions to the problems that we face. And unfortunately, what you see a lot, particularly here in Washington, but also in our state capitals, is too much in the way of partisanship, putting party before country, too much in the way of vitriol, and not enough in the way of job creation and solutions.
All right, let's get the jobs back. How do you do that? What's the first thing that ought to be done here?
We ought to permanently, at least through the year, pass the payroll tax cut. We've got to pass the surface transportation bill. That's millions of jobs. We've got to make investments in our ports and our airports if we want to compete with countries around the world. You go to Asia, and I know you've been to those parts of the world, to Europe. You see investments in high-speed rail. You see investments in our airports and our ports and public transportation. We need to invest in our universities and our public schools again. Not all spending is equal. There are investments that you can make that pay dividends going into the future.
Let me just ask you this. I don't think Congress is going to spend any more money this time around. What could they cut to put more money into these transportation programs that you think are so important?
Well, war spending. Look, we've said, by the way, on a bipartisan basis, that we need to accelerate the withdrawal, not just from Iraq, but also from Afghanistan. We can't continue to pay the kind of money that we're paying that we could be, investing in our cities. And as I've said, we can't build hospitals in Kandahar, not Kansas City. We can't build roads as we were in Baghdad and not Baltimore. We can make those investments. We must make those investments. We can close tax loopholes to generate more revenues. When all of this debate about taxing millionaires and all the rest of it, and I tell people, hold it. We've always stood for the proposition, and even the debate around Mitt Romney's tax rate is about this basic notion that our tax rate ought to be fair. That if you make $30,000, you shouldn't pay more than somebody who makes $300,000. That's not class warfare. That's just fair. That's common sense. We got to get to common sense again. And I think those are some of the things that we could do that would help to create jobs and make investments.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you so much. I'm Bob Schieffer. This has been Face to Face, and don't forget to watch Face the Nation on television this Sunday.